Welcome back to the Book Trivia Podcast, the show where we crack the spine on the most interesting stories behind your favourite books and the authors who wrote them. I'm Jess, and as always, I'm joined by my ever-radiant co-host, the one who remembers the facts while I'm still trying to decode what they mean, Rach.
Hi, Jess. How are you?
If it's a PhD-level literary analysis you're after, then shut your book, because we're about to spill the tea all over your crisp white pages with some seriously juicy behind-the-scenes facts. Today we're strapping in for a high-speed chase through the streets of Paris, cracking ancient codes and asking some very big questions about a certain Renaissance genius who may have hidden the secrets of the universe in a painting of a woman with a suspicious smile. That's right, this episode we're diving into the Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. But before we follow the rose line to the end of the book, let's warm up with a quick round of general book trivia. I'll kick us off, Rach. Question 1 for you. Which literary prize awarded annually is open to any novel written in English and published in the UK? I've got a clue if you need it.
I think that's the Booker Prize.
You didn't even need my clue. That is correct. And Rach, do you know why it's called the Booker Prize?
Is it someone's surname?
Well, it's actually a bit of a long story, but the idea for the prize was conceived by two publishers, Tom Mashler and Graham C. Greene, in 1968. They wanted a way to get more publicity for the books they were publishing, but they needed a backer. And they found one in Booker McConnell, so yes, the name Booker McConnell, who was a wholesale food distributor with a long-term presence in Guyana. So one of the world's most prestigious literary prizes is literally named after a food wholesaler.
And his first name was Booker.
Correct.
That's nominative. How do you say it? Nominative determinism.
Do you want to explain that to people who have no idea what that means?
Your name affects what you do for a living somehow. So
if you were James Farmer and you were a farmer, for example, blah, blah, blah. But the plot thickens because 4 years after the first ceremony in 1972, British writer John Berger won the prize for his novel G and then immediately used his acceptance speech to denounce the award, protesting Booker McConnell's origins involving slavery in the Caribbean. He then donated his £5,000 prize money to the Black Panthers.
Did you say Booker McConnell wasn't British? Is he from Guyana, did you say? Guyana?
Well, I think he is because that's where his food distribution business was set up in Guyana. The plot is very thick.
Yeah. Okay, my questions for you this episode, they're adventure themed in honour of the Da Vinci Code.
I love the themes. Yep, go on.
So, Jess, my first question is, what action-adventure novel includes the premise that you can get DNA from the blood inside a mosquito that's been preserved in amber
Park.
and use the DNA to recreate extinct animals? Yes.
For listeners out there, I've been asking to do Jurassic Park as one of our book trivia episodes for quite some time. Rach doesn't want to do it. I do.
You've never asked. And is it by Michael Crichton? Yes.
Yeah, Michael Crichton, yeah. I've never read it, but I love Jurassic Park.
The film?
Yeah, all the ones before they actually started remaking them.
Oh, have they remade them?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
You don't want to know it. They're crap compared to the original 90s or whatever they were, 2000s. All right, my question 2 for you, Rach, if you're 1 for 1 right now, which book considered a classic political satire was rejected by many publishers before it finally got published in 1945?
Political satire.
I've got a clue if you need it.
1945. It's not Catch-22, is it?
No, but you're in the right realm.
I'll need the clue.
It's by George Orwell.
Okay, Animal Farm.
Yes. 4 publishers rejected it, including Victor Glantz and Jonathan Cape, but the most famous rejection came from T.S. Eliot at Faber and Faber, who acknowledged it was well written but said it needed more public-spirited pigs and the ending was unsatisfying from a political standpoint. I don't think I've actually ever read it.
I've never read it either. Maybe we should do that. Question 2 for you, Jess. Name this book. It's a 1980 thriller about an amnesiac man pulled from the ocean by fishermen. With no memory of his past, he discovers he possesses extraordinary combat and linguistic skills. He soon realizes he's being hunted by the CIA and shadowy assassins while he's trying to uncover his true identity. I have a clue. I don't know if it will help.
You're going to have to give me the clue. I'm sad that I haven't even heard of this because it sounds like something I would love to read.
It's by Robert Ludlum.
Oh, I haven't never read any Robert Ludlum. I have no idea.
It's called The Bourne Identity.
Bourne Identity!
Yeah.
Oh.
You have heard of it, haven't you?
Yeah, I've watched the movies. I've never read the books, though.
I didn't know it was a book.
Was he pulled from the sea at the start of The Bourne Identity?
Well, maybe the book is different to the film. I've never seen the film either, so I didn't know it was a book.
I think I knew it was a book, but yeah. Oh, I'm not doing too well. All right, you're 2 for 2, so let's see if you can make it 3 for 3 with the very easy question. Who wrote the book Gone Girl?
Gillian Flynn?
Yes, correct. And did you know, Rach, she was a TV critic for Entertainment Weekly for over a decade until she was laid off in 2008 during a round of budget cuts?
I didn't know that. Is that when she wrote Gone Girl?
She used her redundancy period to finish Gone Girl, so the book that her job loss made possible went on to sell over 20 million copies and spawn one of the most talked about film adaptations of the decade. So listeners, don't despair if you get made redundant. There's always a silver lining.
Amazing. She really got revenge on her employers. Better revenge than Amy gets in the book. Question 3 for you, Jess. What is this book? It was titled Men Who Hate Women in its original language, and then it was given a different name when translated to English. It became a massive worldwide hit, but its author sadly died of a heart attack at age 50, so didn't get to enjoy his book's success.
God. Men Who Hate Women.
Do you want a clue?
Yeah, I need a clue.
Its original language was Swedish.
Oh, the girl with the dragon tattoo.
Correct. Yeah, by Steve Larson.
Yes. Do you know what? I've read the first and the second. I don't think I quite finished all of them, but I love the ones I read.
Yeah, he actually had 10 books planned, but he died when he'd only written 3. And then I think they employed someone to continue because he had an outline of what he wanted to do. I think I've only read 3. I'd like to go back to that series.
Yeah.
We should do the first one.
Yeah.
I know.
Stay tuned for Book Trivia Podcast Season 3, listeners.
Let's get into the featured book of the episode, which is The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. This is also your spoiler warning if you've been living under a rock for the last 20 years and haven't read it yet. Da Vinci Code. Can we call it DVC? DVC is an action-adventure featuring American Robert Langdon. He's a tweed jacket-wearing Harvard professor of symbology who early in the book meets French cryptologist Sophie Nerveau as they investigate the murder of the curator of the Louvre, who is also Sophie's grandfather. Their investigation unravels a massive religious conspiracy, revealing that the Holy Grail is actually Mary Magdalene, who was married to Jesus and had his baby secretly in France. Jess, what trivia have you got for me on Da Vinci Code?
I am going to start us off with an absolute cracker of a random fact. And by cracker, I mean of the code cracking kind. See what I did there?
Oh, Jessica.
Did you know, Rach, that the dust jacket on the US edition of DVC, as we're calling it, contains a hidden reference to a real encrypted sculpture sitting on the grounds of CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia? Did you know that?
What? No. That's cool.
The sculpture is called Kryptos with a K, and it contains 4 encrypted messages. 3 have been solved. The 4th stumped professional code breakers at both the CIA and NSA for over 3 decades. As for the reference on the back cover of the US edition, they printed GPS coordinates in light red on dark red text running vertically next to the blurbs. So subtle they're almost invisible, and here's where it gets interesting. The coordinates are deliberately wrong. The degrees digit is off by 1. When Brown and his publisher were asked about it, they both gave the exact same response. The discrepancy is intentional. Nobody has explained what that means. There are actually 2 other hidden Easter eggs on the US cover, and I'll come back to them later in the episode. Stay tuned.
I will. What did you think of the Da Vinci Code? Had you read it before?
Yes, I had read it whenever it first came out, and I remember giving it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it at the time. I was really excited to come back and do a reread for the podcast, and it was just as fun and fast-paced as I remembered. Even though I could remember the general gist of the ending with the whole Mary Magdalene thing, I had completely forgotten who the teacher was, so I loved getting fooled by that twist all over again. But younger me gave it 5 stars. Older me has to take one back because now in my fully fledged fight the patriarchy era, I can't unsee the fact that Dan Brown, while writing what was likely a pretty feminist-leaning novel for its time, still manages to make Sophie, who arguably should be the star of the show, stand there like a side piece while Langdon figures out basically every single puzzle when she is the cryptologist. Come on. Not only that, but her grandfather designed the code specifically with her in mind. I'm sorry, that's a bit of sloppy writing, Danny Brown.
And to top it off, in the film version, even the bits that Sophie solves in the book, they take it away from her and give it to Tom Hanks to solve. Like she only had a tiny bit.
Yeah, I know.
Even taken that.
Come on. So, yes, I've given it a 4 out of 5. Really, maybe even a 3 because it's pretty awful. But what about you, Rach? Was it your first read? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Tell me everything.
I also read it, maybe not when it first came out, but when there were just copious amounts of copies lying around for people to pick up in holiday rentals. And when I was rereading it this time, I was really surprised at the bits that I'd remembered and the bits that I'd forgotten, because I somehow remembered all the weird Opus Dei stuff with Silas. But I'd completely forgotten all the stuff about Jesus having descendants and being married to Mary Magdalene and her being a Holy Grail. So I don't know how my brain picks what sticks in there and what gets jettisoned, but it was quite a weird experience.
You love all the self-flagellation, I guess.
I was fascinated by that. And then I found out Opus Dei was real, and I found out they have schools in Sydney.
We always start this segment off with history about the author, and I'm definitely going to get to that. But before I do, Rach, do you want to know the second Easter egg on the US cover of the novel?
Tell me, yes.
The second hidden reference is that if you look closely at the back cover, you can see a small torn paper graphic, and written upside down, the phrase says only WW knows, which is actually a phrase that appears in the decrypted text of Cryptos. WW stands for former CIA Director William Webster, the only person that the sculptor Jim Sanborn ever gave the full solution to when the piece was unveiled in 1990. So that phrase, hidden upside down on the back of this novel, is a direct reference to a secret that at the time only one man on Earth actually knew. Do you love that?
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Wait for the third one. All right. But let's move on to Dan Brown's life, shall we, Rach? He was born in 1964 in New Hampshire, and his father was a maths teacher at a prestigious academy who also wrote high school textbooks. So there is a very real chance that some of our US listeners were tortured by Dan Brown's dad's maths homework without ever knowing it. Meanwhile, his mother was a trained church organ player and a student of sacred music. So there you go. You've got the maths and the religion all rolled into one. Sounds familiar, right?
Mm.
Here comes the funny thing. After graduating college, did Brown hunker down to write some books? No, he did not. In fact, quite the opposite. After college, Dan Brown decided he was going to be a pop star. He moved to Hollywood, taught Spanish at a Beverly Hills prep school to pay the bills, and self-produced a children's cassette called Synth Animals, featuring such classics as Happy Frogs and Suzuki Elephants, which sold, I think, at best 100 copies. As you can imagine, the music career was not happening. In 1993, on holiday in Tahiti, Brown picked up a Sydney Sheldon thriller called The Doomsday Conspiracy, which, by the way, Rach, I love because my mum and I absolutely love Sydney Sheldon books. But after reading it, Dano reportedly thought he could do much better than the master himself, so he moved back to New Hampshire and started writing. His first 3 novels sold fewer than 10,000 copies each. Take that. Sydney's better than you, Dan.
Okay, a bit of background for our listeners. The Da Vinci Code was published back in March 2003. Jess, I still had collagen in my skin. My back didn't ache.
Me too.
What a time.
What a time to be alive.
I know. What a time to be young. It was an immediate success, and it debuted at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. It was actually only outsold by one book that year. I know you know which book outsold it.
Got to be
Jess.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, it was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So if you are wondering, like me, how a relatively unknown author debuted at number 1, it's actually down to a clever marketing campaign which was put into motion 6 months before the book was released. The publisher Doubleday were hoping they had a bestseller on their hands. So instead of doing the regular 1,500 to 3,000 advanced reader copies, ARCs, they actually did an advanced print run of 10,000 ARCs. And they made sure that those 10,000 copies were targeted, really specifically targeted to booksellers. That strategy paid off because there was this huge groundswell of word of mouth buzz across the whole industry, and that reached the ears of the major retailers. Then they panicked that they'd underordered on this book that everyone was talking about. So they get this major case of FOMO and increase their initial orders. I think Barnes & Noble were the first to go, and they moved their pre-order from 15,000 to 80,000 before the book was even published.
Wow.
And that obviously would have caused a domino effect through other retailers to increase their initial orders. When the book was finally launched, voila, straight to number 1 on the New York Times bestseller list, where it stayed for 136 weeks.
And that also explains why there are so many secondhand copies floating around.
Yes, that's why you don't need to buy a copy. You can always just find one in a street library. But that actually caused a frenzy for the rights to print in other languages in the film. It was a risky strategy that really paid off for Doubleday and our Danny boy. I have an interesting fact for you. Dan Brown was initially signed to a publisher named Pocket Books. His editor at Pocket Books left, so then Dan was inherited by another editor called Jason Kaufman. When Jason Kaufman decided to leave Pocket Books for Doubleday, he campaigned to bring Danny with him along to Doubleday because I think Dan was working on the Da Vinci Code at the time and Jason really liked it. So they both moved to Doubleday, and then Doubleday did that clever marketing campaign which shot him into the number 1 spot. It was Jason that had the honor of letting Dan know he'd made it to number 1. Dan was in Portland, Oregon on a book tour, and he received a fax to the hotel he was staying at, and it just said Dan Brown #1, and the hotel staff were like, "Here, sir, I hope you know what this means because we don't know what it is." And he did know what it meant, and apparently he has kept that fax in a scrapbook at home.
Didn't frame it, put it on the wall like I would have.
Scrapbook. That's so 1970s.
Like decoupage. Well, speaking of Jason, there is one more lovely detail. Brown actually named Robert Langdon's fictional editor Jonas Falkman as a direct nod to his real editor, Jason Kaufman, hidden in plain sight like everything else in the book. And speaking of hiding in plain sight, we cannot talk about the Da Vinci Code without talking about the controversy after it was published. Right away, the Catholic Church was up in arms about the themes in the book, saying Jesus was just a common man married to Mary Magdalene, and the Vatican even issued statements urging the faithful to avoid the book and the upcoming film adaptation. But Danny B himself, he wasn't at all bothered about that debate, and he actually argued that apathy is a constant threat to the study of the uncomfortable relationship between science and religion. In 2004, at a public event, he went on to say that when he was writing the book, he had actually considered including material alleging that Jesus Christ survived the crucifixion entirely, but ultimately decided it was 3 or 4 steps too far, which I kind of have to agree. He said the theory was backed by what he called very credible sources, but that the evidence was too flimsy to include. So there you go.
Might have ruffled a few feathers, Danny. Yeah.
Just a tad.
So here's some money trivia for you. In 2005, Forbes magazine estimated Dan Brown's income at US $76.5 million. US
That's
dollars.
chump change to Elon Musk and his trillions.
It's true. But yeah, that followed the initial hardback boom of the Da Vinci Code, and they ranked him number 12 on their Celebrity 100 list. So he was up there.
Who topped number 1? Probably Oprah.
Yeah, I don't know. Why do you always ask me stuff I don't know?
Do you know why I'm laughing? Because did I ever tell you someone wrote on Reddit, they listen to the podcast and then they go, yeah, but one of the girls always asks really hard questions to the other girl.
Is it me asking
me.
you?
It's me.
And the other girl doesn't know. In the Da Vinci Code, Dan Brown very much blurs the line between fact and fiction. He actually starts the book with a page which begins fact, and then goes on to claim that the Priory of Sion was real. Both the original hoax creator and the hoax creator's son have publicly confirmed that it wasn't real. One of them actually confirming this under oath in a French court. But because of the way the book presented these facts, the Catholic Church did feel that they had to respond, and they appointed one of their archbishops as an official debunker of the book's claims. The job of debunker went to the lucky Cardinal Tarcisco Bertoni. He's a cardinal now. He was an archbishop of Genoa back then. His role was to officially rebut the book's claims and organise public debates. He appealed to Catholic bookshops to remove it from their shelves, and he is quoted as calling the Da Vinci Code a potpourri of lies. I like that turn of phrase.
I might use that in future. Well, let's talk about the hero of the book, Professor Robert Langdon. Brown has described Langdon as the man he wishes he could be, a straight-up fictional alter ego. They share the same birthday, June 22nd, 1964. Both grew up in New Hampshire and both attended Phillips Exeter Academy. Which is pretty funny when you consider there's a moment at the start of the book where Langdon is feeling genuinely embarrassed about being named in Boston Magazine as one of the city's top 10 most intriguing people. Danny Brown was essentially writing himself as a pseudo-sexy professor while simultaneously having Langdon humble brag about being too famous. The book actually describes Langdon as looking like Harrison Ford in Harris Tweed. So Brown wasn't being particularly subtle about the Indiana Jones energy he was going for. And the name Robert Langdon also came from a real person, John Langdon, a professor of typography at Drexel University known for creating ambigrams, which are words or designs that can be read the same way from multiple directions. He created the ambigrams for Angels and Demons, which was actually the first Langdon novel Brown wrote. Brown named his hero after John Langdon as a tribute to that collaboration. And Brown has also cited the mythologist Joseph Campbell, author of The Power of Myth, as a major inspiration for Langdon's character. Specifically, Campbell's ability to look at complex spiritual questions with calm, matter-of-fact respect, which explains a lot about why Langdon never seems particularly rattled by anything, even when he's being chased through the Louvre at midnight by the Paris police, who think he sadistically tortured the curator, then posed him in the nude with his own blood written out in puzzles next to him. Okay.
We've talked about Robert Langdon, but I think we need to talk about Silas, the Opus Dei albino. He's stated as having red eyes in the book, and I decided to fact check that. Wrong. Humans with albinoism don't have red eyes. Although, to be fair, sometimes if they have the most pale of pale blue eyes, their eyes can look red in certain lights.
I thought they had red eyes because they've got no pigment, so the colour of their pupil there is no colour there.
So they have very, very pale blue eyes. If you shine a light, you might be able to see their blood vessels reflecting off the back of their eyes, and their eyes might look red. But they don't have red eyes. No humans have red eyes. And he kept saying in the book that Silas has red eyes. And I'm like, that's not humanly possible. Maybe it's magical realism.
To close out the character section, let's talk about the villain of the book, Sir Leigh Teabing, who Langdon turns to while on the run with the cryptex, only to realise later that Teabing is in fact the teacher and has been playing them all along. Great plot twist, I thought. Strap in, Rach, because we're in for a roller coaster here. The name Sir Leigh Teabing is a direct anagram of Bagent and Leigh, the two authors who later sued Brown for plagiarism. So let me tell you how it happened. Michael Bagent and Richard Leigh were two of the three authors of Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which is a 1982 non-fiction book that put forward the theory that Jesus married Mary Magdalene, they had a child, and that the Catholic Church had spent centuries suppressing the bloodline. Basically the entire premise of the Da Vinci Code. And Dan Brown didn't just name a character after them. If you'll remember, at one point in the novel, Teabing actually removes a copy of Holy Blood, Holy Grail from his shelf and says the authors made some dubious leaps of faith in their analysis, but their fundamental premise is sound. Do you remember that? So Dan Brown actually cited the book he allegedly stole from inside the book he allegedly stole from through the mouth of a villain named after the authors he allegedly stole from. Bajan and Leigh ended up trying to sue the publisher of the Da Vinci Code, who was also their own publisher, seeking $150 million in damages. I mean, Dan Brown would have been good for it, right? If he's earned that much money. And they also sought an injunction that would have blocked further distribution of the book and the film. The irony is that they were essentially suing their own publisher over a book that had made their own largely forgotten 1982 title a bestseller again. And Brown ended up winning the case. And this is where it gets crazy. The judge, Justice Peter Smith, wrote in his 71-page ruling, it would be quite wrong if fictional writers were to have their writings pored over in the way the Da Vinci Code has been pored over in this case by authors of pretend historical books. So it was a pretty withering assessment of both sides. And then this is what's so funny. In what can only be described as the judge getting carried away, he hid his own secret code in the ruling itself, embedding seemingly random italicized letters throughout the 71 pages that spelled out a hidden message.
What was the message?
So he was doing it to Dan Brown himself. Yes, do you want me to tell you what the code is?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with the book itself.
Oh.
So what happened was nobody noticed the code for weeks. It was eventually spotted by a London lawyer named Dan Tench, who noticed certain letters throughout the judgment had been italicized in odd places. It wasn't typos, it was a pattern. When journalists contacted Justice Smith, he refused to confirm or deny anything, saying only, they don't look like typos, do they? He then began anonymously emailing clues to reporters, including a hint to think mathematics and a reference to his own entry in Who's Who. The method he used to hide the code was based on the Fibonacci sequence, the same mathematical sequence that features in the Da Vinci Code itself. So the judge used a code method from the novel he'd just ruled on inside the ruling.
That's so cool.
But when decoded, it's kind of a letdown after all that, because the full message read, Jackie Fisher, who are you? Dreadnought.
What does that mean?
I will tell you. Admiral Jackie Fisher was a Royal Navy officer who developed the HMS Dreadnought battleship in the early 20th century. The judge was apparently a Navy history buff, and he had hidden a personal tribute to his favourite admiral inside a copyright ruling about a thriller novel.
What's that judge's name again?
Judge's name was Justice Smith.
He's a legend. Yeah. I love him.
Legend. When he finally came clean, Smith said he had inserted the code for his own pleasure and had not expected anyone to notice it, except that he was sending hints to journalists to figure it out.
That's so cool. I love Justice Smith.
Yeah, I love it. I loved all these weird puzzle things going and secret codes. Can't get any better. But yeah, that's the whole story.
Very cool. Since we're talking about people being silly, it's time for me to ask you some stupid questions, Jess.
My favourite.
So, would you rather be a hugely successful author, like $76 million successful, but all the other authors gang up on you and make fun of you, and Stephen Fry calls your books complete loose stool water and arse gravy of the worst kind, and Salman Rushdie says, Da Vinci Code is a novel so bad it gives bad novels a bad name? Or would you rather be a literary darling but you're as poor as a church mouse?
Give me the money. I'm always going to take the money. Do you know how expensive Sydney house prices are? Give me that money.
I do know how expensive Sydney house prices are.
What about you? Are you taking the money or are you taking the high road, Rachie?
Gosh, I don't know if I want Stephen Fry making fun of me because I do.
You don't want to be called arse gravy?
I would like his admiration, but I'd also like $76 million.
Yeah.
I could go get therapy with my money. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, would you rather have a father like Dan Brown's father who created elaborate treasure hunts for you to find presents on your birthday and Christmas, or would you rather create an elaborate treasure hunt for somebody else but then laugh at them at the end because you made it really, really hard and it just leads to finding a single purple jelly bean?
I love working out puzzles, so I'm going to take the first one for sure, but jelly bean's pretty funny.
Being mean to other people is funny.
What about you? What would you do? I would love to figure it out. I love treasure hunts and clues and all that sort of stuff.
I think I'd rather make a really hard treasure hunt and then the person goes all the way through and then there's just nothing at the end.
Remind me never to do any of your treasure hunts then.
I will remind you. You won't be able to help yourself though. You'll just get
I
hooked
don't care.
in.
It's for the glory. Who cares about the jelly bean?
You'll get to the end and it'll be Jackie, whatever his name is, Dreadnought, and you'll be like, oh, Rachel. Okay, my second last question. Would you rather be publicly denounced by the Catholic Church or would you rather be doxxed over the internet? Doxing is where people on the internet decide to go after you and they find all your personal details and then just put it on public spaces on the internet. And then everyone on that page on the internet just goes for you and sends death threats. And
whoa, I'm going to take option A.
You'd rather be denounced publicly by the Catholic Church?
My address and whatnot on the internet? No, thank you. I think I'll definitely be taking A. What about you?
I can't figure out what I'd be more scared by because I feel like you don't want to be in the newspapers as this person's been excommunicated and the Catholic Church says no.
And you'll have an official debunker after you as well.
Yeah.
Who ends up being an archbishop.
Remember how mean they were to Sinead O'Connor when she burned that photo of the Pope?
Yeah, nothing compares.
Yeah. Boom. Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'd still get publicly. I don't want my stuff on the internet.
No, not a chance.
Okay, I've got one more question. Would you rather have to join Opus Dei and whip yourself or have to join Scientology and work your way up through the levels?
And end up jumping on Oprah's couch? I'm going to take Scientology because I don't really want to whip myself or do any of that. That sounds painful. Scientology it is.
At least with Scientology, you could end up a movie star.
I promised you 3 Easter eggs on the US dust jacket, and I've saved the best till last, Rachy Rach. The third one, it's not actually on the cover itself. It's hidden in the text of the book flaps. And if you go and dig out your copy and look for it, buried in the blurb text, there is a hidden message that reads, "Is there no help for the widow's son?" Which sounds dramatic and mysterious because it absolutely is. It's actually one of the oldest secret distress signals in Freemasonry, used by members to signal that they needed urgent help from a fellow Mason. So to recap the full dust jacket situation, before you've even opened this book, the cover contains deliberately wrong CIA coordinates that lead to an unsolved encryption on the grounds of CIA headquarters, an upside-down phrase referencing a secret known only to a former CIA director, and a centuries-old Freemason distress call hidden in the blurb. What do you think, Rach? My nerdy, puzzle-loving self is loving it.
That's amazing. I didn't know any of that, so thank you for telling me.
Unfortunately for me, the Aussie version didn't have any of it.
I have a fact for you. So, as I mentioned in the silly questions, Dan Brown has been massacred by prominent authors, including Stephen Fry and Salman Rushdie. But my favourite bit of Dan Brown internet bullying was from the UK paper The Telegraph, where journalist Michael Deacon wrote the funniest article about Dan Brown using the style of Dan Brown's prose. It is chef's kiss good. I'm just going to read a little excerpt for you to give you a taster, Jess.
Are you ready? Yep.
The critics said his writing was clumsy, ungrammatical, repetitive, and repetitive. They said it was full of unnecessary tautology. They said his prose was swamped in a sea of mixed metaphors. For some reason, they found something funny in sentences such as, "His eyes went white, like a shark about to attack." They even say my books are packed with banal and superfluous description, thought the 5'9" man. He particularly hated it when they said his imagery was nonsensical. It made his insect eyes flash like a rocket. So if you like that excerpt, be sure to search out that article for a big lol.
He gets so much stick from other authors because he's not writing like a Pulitzer Prize winner, that's for sure. But give him credit.
Not even a Booker Prize winner.
But the thing is, I like that type of writing because it's pacey and you do want to keep going to the next chapter, you know. I don't know. I'm sticking up for Danny.
He has a distinct style, but it works. It's also funny to make fun of it, though. Here's a juicy fact for you, Jess. The Da Vinci Code dedication read for Blythe, again, more than ever. I looked into that, and Blythe was Dan's wife at the time he wrote the book. But sadly, they divorced in 2019 with Blythe, who he used to refer to as the goddess, alleging that he hid millions of dollars in future book projects and he led a secret double life during their marriage. Wow. The author of the Da Vinci Code being into secrets. Weird. By the way, on this topic, Jess, did you know that Dan Brown's latest book is titled The Secret of Secrets?
I did know that because it's in my bookcase right now, waiting to be read.
Ah. Well, hopefully there's some codes in the dust jacket for you.
Yeah. Speaking of juicy goss, I will talk more about his divorce and all those sordid details later in the pod. But right now, let's actually talk about the Rosslyn Chapel. As you'll recall, it's featured in the climax of the book when Langdon and Sophie race there from London on the brink of exposing a 2,000-year-old conspiracy. First things first, it is a real place. It's a 15th century chapel sitting about 7 miles south of Edinburgh in a small village called Rosslyn, and it was built in 1446 by Sir William Sinclair, the Earl of Orkney, who apparently wanted a building carved from floor to ceiling. And he was not kidding, Rach. Did you look it up online?
I didn't, no.
Well, I did. I was Googling every single reference in this book, the rose lines, everything. I looked it all up. It was so nice reading it all these years later with access to the internet and being able to look it up straight away and see it. When I did look it up, the place is absolutely covered in intricate stonework, Gothic gargoyles, Norse dragons, pagan men peering out from the stone foliage, and scenes from both the Old and New Testament. But the real conspiracy theorists have been obsessed with Rosslyn for centuries, long before Danny Boy wrote this book, because of what's underneath it. In the novel, Dan describes a vast subterranean vault implying something far larger than the chapel sitting above it. And even though it sounds like the work of fiction, modern ground-penetrating radar surveys have confirmed that vaults genuinely do exist beneath the chapel. They are real. They have been sealed since 1690 and never opened. Researchers who investigated in 1997 reportedly found evidence of an underground passageway leading from the chapel all the way to Rosslyn Castle nearby, and nobody can agree on what's actually down there. Depending on who you ask, this vaults contain the Holy Grail, 20 fully armoured Knights Templar, the cross from the crucifixion, the original Scottish crown jewels, the mummified body of Mary Magdalene, or, and this is my personal favourite, the mummified head of Jesus Christ himself. Oh. The Sinclair family who built it and still own it have been linked to Freemasonry, the Priory of Sion, and are, some claim, direct descendants of Jesus Christ himself, which means the family who owns the building, allegedly containing the mummified head of Jesus, may themselves be related to the person whose head is allegedly in the building. It's a puzzle wrapped in an enigma surrounded in mystery.
My goodness.
They don't just go down there with some jackhammers.
I definitely wouldn't. Imagine if it was just full of plague victims and you ended up starting the bubonic plague again or something. Could be.
Is that what you think it is? I think it's treasures.
You don't know what's down there.
Oh, you know what it probably is?
What?
The treasure of Monte Cristo.
Probably. That's what it is, definitely. So speaking of treasure, let's do a money fact. In the book, the Depository Bank of Zurich is described as being adjacent to the Roland Garros tennis stadium. However, checked it. A Swiss bank does not exist at that location, and the real Rue Haxo, which is the street it's supposed to be on, is located several kilometres away. So I checked, and Swiss banks are still currently built like all the other banks in the world, and they're not forged entirely out of metal like in the book. So that's actually a real shame, because that's the only part of the book I think I would want to be real. That bank sounded amazing in that scene. Loved it.
Well, you'd have to be pretty rich to have your deposits there.
I'd never get on the inside.
In 2006, the Da Vinci Code got its own star-studded film adaptation starring none other than a completely miscast, in my opinion, Tom Hanks as Robert Langdon, with the most awful hair in history, and the lovely Audrey Tautou, who I love from Amelie, as Sophie Nouveau. Did you watch the movie, Rach? Did you like it?
I did watch the movie, and it was fine. I agree with you about the hair, though, and the miscasting. Love Tom. Don't think he was his best in this role.
But But also, no, he's not Harrison Ford in Tweed. Just get Harrison Ford to do it.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it was fun, but it was too long, and they changed the ending a bit. They cut out where she realizes that her long-lost brother is actually alive. So I obviously preferred the novel ending, which is generally the case with me. Should we trade some movie facts?
Yes, let's do it.
My first one for you. Ron Howard's first choice for Robert Langdon wasn't Tom Hanks. It was Bill Paxton.
He would have been much better.
He would have, wouldn't he?
I can see that.
Yeah, Paxton was interested, but he turned it down due to scheduling conflicts. Russell Crowe was then seriously considered.
Rusty.
Before Howard landed on his longtime friend Hanks. Other names in the mix included Ralph Fiennes, Hugh Jackman.
Voldemort.
Yeah, Voldemort.
Okay. Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman could have been all right, but
Tapper. He's too tall. No way.
He's too tall. And what about George Clooney was the last one?
No, he's not Professor.
I'm sorry, but really any one of them except for Russell Crowe would have been better than Tom Hanks. And I'm a big Tom Hanks fan, but he's not
I love
Robert
Tom
Langdon.
Hanks. Yeah. And I agree with you. What was happening with his hair? My fact for you, Jess, the film soundtrack actually contains a track called Piano, spelt with a PH, Piano. And it's a piece of music written and performed by author Dan Brown. So the track was released.
Of course, because he wanted to be a pop star.
Yeah. The track was released as part of the official soundtrack, and it was published under the label DGB Records. Have you heard of DGB Records?
Dan Brown.
Yeah. Yes. I checked, and his middle name is Gerhardt. So his initials are DGBs. That smells like a conspiracy theory to me.
Yeah.
And then on piano with a PH.
Piano.
The internet says that's a portmanteau of the word piano and the word file because the cryptex has a file.
It's not a portmanteau of piano and PH fat beats.
Well, remember at the beginning of the book, there's a real dumb joke about the numbers phi and the number pi. And the joke that phi is 1H of a lot cooler than pi. I'm thinking, is it a portmanteau of that number and the word? The whole thing stinks of conspiracy to me. What's
or
your
just
next
people
fact?
loving silly puzzle-y things.
Yeah.
This next one's not as good as your one. But there is a gargoyle inside Rosslyn Chapel in the film that was modelled after Ron Howard's own face.
But surely they didn't carve it into the wall. They would have just put it there for the day.
Yeah. Don't think it's a permanent fixture.
My fact for you, the Louvre actually allowed filming to take place inside, but the film crew had to provide their own Mona Lisa painting because their lighting would be too strong for the real painting. So they went all the way to the Louvre to film a fake Mona Lisa.
Love it. Westminster Abbey was the other place, but they actually refused to allow filming on the grounds that the book was theologically unsound. So instead, the production moved to Lincoln Cathedral instead, which received £100,000 as a payment. And a 61-year-old nun named Sister Mary Michael prayed outside Winchester Cathedral for 12 hours straight to protest the film.
Oh, Sister Mary Michael. That's a shame. Bet her knees were sore. My fact for you, Dan Brown makes a cameo appearance in the film when Robert Langdon is talking with the police during the signing of his book. Dan Brown is seen to the left immediately after someone says, "We found your name in his daily planner," to Tom Hanks. That's where you can see Dan Brown. And he's wearing the Harris tweed jacket from his book publicity photo. Maybe that's why they put Tom Hanks in a suit jacket because Dan Brown's there wearing the tweed jacket. We can't have them side by side.
My last fact for you on the movie is actually that Ron Howard always wanted tattoo for Sophie, but she was never available for an audition. She also initially felt she was too young to convincingly play opposite Tom Hanks. But after some persuading, she finally came in, asked if she could take a photo of Howard and Hanks to prove she'd actually met them. And then she ended up getting the part.
Oh, cool.
Very cute.
I think Tom Hanks must have used his star power to get any romance taken out, because it's definitely not like they're a couple in the
Yeah,
film.
and also no chemistry between the two of them either. I don't think he would have wanted it. It would just been
No, it would have
bag
been
of yuck.
creepy.
Yeah.
Speaking of Audrey Tattoo, I really like the trench coat she's wearing in the first scene she appears in. She loses it partway through. I looked it up and I found that her entire 3-piece costume has been auctioned online, and it only auctioned for $512. I could have owned it.
$512?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a bargain. It's probably 1,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, trench coats or not, the world went crazy for the Da Vinci Code in the early 2000s. So much so, there was even a Da Vinci Code video game. It was released in 2006 for PlayStation 2, Xbox and PC, developed by The Collective and published by 2K Games. Here's the first interesting detail. Despite being released on the same day that the film opened, the game was actually based directly on the novel, not the film, which means the characters in the game look nothing like Tom Hanks or Audrey Tattoo, which is a very good thing in my opinion, considering Robert Langdon's awful hair in the movie.
It's a shame for Sophie, though, because Audrey's beautiful.
She is gorgeous. The game is classified as an adventure puzzle game, which makes sense, but critics were particularly baffled by the inclusion of combat. It has parts that you play as Robert Langdon, Harvard professor of symbology, punching people. The game also got Nintendo DS and PlayStation portable versions handled by separate studios, suggesting someone had very high hopes for the franchise. Those hopes were not rewarded. Global sales were estimated at around 140,000 copies for the PS2 version and only 40,000 for Xbox. Remarkably modest numbers for a tie-in to the best-selling novel of the decade.
That's so bad. But yes, another book we've done that had its own video game, because Hitchhiker's Guide also had a video game, but that was much more popular. God, that's a good episode, isn't it, Jess? We should go listen to it again. Speaking of games, Jess, we love trivia, and Obs,
we do
Danny
indeed.
Boy loves a bit of trivia too. So I have decided to do a fact-checking game for you, because as you said, as we read, we can look up on the internet and check things.
So hopefully I'm going to do all right with this.
Yes, hopefully you are. I'm going to read out the stuff I noticed in the book, and then you have to say whether you think it was correct or incorrect. Okay. Instead of radar, you've got trivia dar. So you've got to use your trivia dar. Okay. Did you notice in the book it says that the origin of the Jardin des Tuileries is not named after tulips, but it's actually named after the original roof tile kilns, which were on that site before it was turned into the gardens in the middle of Paris? What does your trivia dar feel?
I think it's true. I think it's true that it was the tiles and not...
It's correct. It is correct. The book also says that the Louvre pyramid contains 666 panes of glass. I fact-checked that. What do you think?
Oh, I've been to the Louvre, not inside it, just outside it, you know, take that silly photo of you holding up the pyramid. Do I think that was it 60,000 shards of glass, did you say?
666. So the number of the devil or the beast. Yeah,
let's say yes. True.
No, I fact-checked it. It's actually 673, so that's conspiracy theory debunked. The book says if you stand in the esplanade at the end of the Tuileries near the Arc de Triomphe, you can see 4 art museums at each of the 4 compass points, one to the north, east, south, and the west. And I fact-checked that. So can you, Jess?
I want it to be right because it sounds so Parisian.
It's partially right. There's kind of 3 at 3 of the compass points, but the Pompidou Centre ruins it because it's not to the north, it's over past the Louvre.
But what a great name, Pompidou.
Yeah, the Pompidou Centre. That's the most modern one. Okay, next one. The book says that the 3 most famous artworks in the Louvre are the Mona Lisa, the Venus de Milo, and Winged Victory. Is that correct?
False.
It is correct. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's obviously famous. They're the most famous 3 that people
I thought maybe
generally heard of.
Venus de Milo would be at the Pompidou.
It's not at the Pompidou. It's at the Louvre. In the book, Langdon thinks about museum air smelling differently to regular air because of the special carbon filters to preserve paintings. Jess, is museum air a thing?
I think true.
Yes, I fact-checked it. Yeah. So there's a whole science of how you're supposed to keep the humidity levels really stable. I'm not sure that museums in Sydney can afford that sort of thing. Anyway, in the book, the Louvre has dozens or maybe hundreds of dummy video cameras that don't work. Do you think it's correct?
I feel false with that one.
It's hard to say, but up to 60% of the Louvre was found to be unmonitored due to a lack of funding for security. And there was that successful heist of $102 million worth of crown jewels stolen and not recovered since October 2019. You remember they went up in the cherry picker and got away on mopeds? So sidebar, there is a theory that the heist robbers may have actually been trained by the Grandpa Gang. And the Grandpa Gang are those old men that broke in and tied up Kim Kardashian and stole her.
You're kidding.
Ring. Yeah, I think some of them went to prison, but the two heists had enough similarities that people think that there was training going on.
Do you think they made more money out of the Louvre or out of Kimi K's
Louvre,
huge big
for
ring?
Sure. They stole crown jewels.
I know.
And they dropped one in the getaway and it got crushed under one of the wheels and they got that one back. Actually, the Grandpa Gang dropped something too when they stole from Kim and someone found it and was wearing it the next day at work and then they saw the news and went, oh, I better go and hand that in. The book says that Opus Dei headquarters are in Murray Hill, Manhattan and cost $47 million. Do you think that's correct or incorrect?
Incorrect.
It's correct. Yeah.
Oh!
$47 million for a massive building in the middle of Manhattan. Goodness. The book says that pentacles are associated with Venus. What's my fact check on that?
True.
Yes, correct. And the book also says that the Olympic rings were almost a pentacle, but then they were changed to rings.
I'm going to say false because I just can't believe it, but go on, tell me.
Yeah, it's false. The book says that Friday the 13th is unlucky because of some story to do with the popes and the Knights Templar.
False.
It's half true. It was actually the King of France. He had all the French Knights Templar rounded up on Friday the 13th. But it wasn't the Pope and it wasn't the whole of Europe. So half true. Book says that Leonardo da Vinci invented a cryptex, which is the papyrus scroll wrapped around a vial of vinegar, which breaks and dissolves the papyrus if the correct combination isn't entered. Fact check that.
True.
No, he didn't invent that.
That is the one thing I'm disappointed isn't true.
I think Dan Brown must have come up with that one himself. I looked into it and papyrus doesn't dissolve in vinegar. It's a cool idea though. The book says that there used to be old chevron symbols for male and female. So upside down V for male and a shallow V for women. Do you think that's correct or incorrect?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. And the book says that we are in a transitional phase moving from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. What do you think?
It's the age of Aquarius. I don't know. I have no idea. Yes? True.
Yes. Yeah, apparently we are. Who knew? Okay, my final one. The St. Sulpice Catholic Church in Paris has a thin brass line running along its floor that ends in a marble obelisk. Jess, what is the name of that line?
Rose line. That was one of the ones I actually looked up.
No, it's called the Gnomon line. It's an 18th century astronomical tool called Gnomon, Gnomon.
So I Googled it and I saw the line, but it must have just known that I was reading the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
Because it didn't say that's the name of it.
I think it's called the Gnomon line, but it's used to track the sun and determine the exact date of Easter.
Yeah.
That's what it's for. There is also a Paris meridian, which is those little brass things that run through Paris. That runs 115 metres east of St. Sulpice Church. Let's start wrapping up this episode with a quick round of true or false. I'm going to start us off. So, Jess, Dan Brown's first book was published using the pseudonym Danielle Brown, and it was called 187 Men to Avoid, a survival guide for the romantically frustrated woman.
That is so elaborate. I'm assuming it's true, but it also sounds ridiculous, so it's also false. I'm going to have to choose one. Okay, I'm going to say true.
Yeah, it's true. His ex-wife helped him write it. Yeah. Danielle Brown.
Danielle Brown. True or false, Rach? In the Vatican archive scene, Langdon recalls a wedding attended by two people named Dick and Connie. Is it true or false that those are the names of Brown's sister and brother?
Dick and Connie. Dan, Dick and Connie. Yeah, true.
First off, Vatican archive scene. Totally not DVC, actually talking about angels and demons, but it is false. I tried to trick you. Dick and Connie are real people, but they aren't Dan Brown's sister and brother. It's his parents, which is just as well, as you wouldn't want your brother and sister getting married in the book.
Or in real life, really. You didn't want them getting married at all. Jess, true or false? Sangreal is an old French term for the Holy Grail, and in French it can also be word played into royal blood if you say sang real or sang real.
True.
Yeah, it's true.
Sang, so that's blood. Sang is blood, and real is royal.
Sangreal means Holy Grail, because Grail, like Grail.
Yeah. My true or false for you. Bishop Manuel Aringarosa's surname, if taken as two Italian words, Aringa and Rossa, spelled with two S's instead of one, translates to red herring. True or false?
Rossa does sound red or pink. Herring, Aringa. Yeah, true.
It is true. The red herring foreshadows the bishop being a suspected antagonist.
My last true or false for you, Jess. Emperor Constantine wrote the Bible.
False.
Yes, it is false. But he did organise the Council of Nicaea in 325, which sidebar led to the Nicene Creed. Jess, you're a former Catholic schoolgirl. Did you know you've recited the Nicene Creed many times at school mass?
I would say I would. Tell me how it starts and I'll see if I can say it.
It's that one in the middle of it. It's like, we believe in one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church.
In one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth and all things visible and invisible. Yep, I'm a Catholic schoolgirl.
That is from 325.
Wow.
CE. That's how old it is, and you're still saying it.
It's a stayer. Last true or false is on a totally different tangent to the Nicene Creed. In 1993, Brown released a self-titled adult soft rock CD. On that CD was a song called 976 Love, which was about phone sex. True or false?
Oh, I hope it's false. Gross.
It is true. 976 numbers were premium rate phone lines in the US in the early 1990s, the kind you didn't ring from the family landline. On his CD, sandwiched between other soft rock ballads, was this song called 976 Love, and I'll give you one of the sample lyrics.
Please don't.
I take you to bed and push the phone to my head. You make me feel like a man. I think I just threw up in my mouth.
Make it stop. I'm hanging up.
I've got one final fact for you. I promise it's not as gross as that. Let's go back to, you mentioned that Dan Brown and his wife divorced and he had dedicated the book to her. In the acknowledgements of the Da Vinci Code, Brown described his wife Blythe as an art historian, a painter, a frontline editor, and without a doubt the most astonishingly talented woman I have ever known. In interviews, he said he probably wouldn't have written the Da Vinci Code without her. In fact, it was Blythe who suggested including Mary Magdalene as the central figure. During the plagiarism trial, her name appeared in over a quarter of his 219-paragraph witness statement, which proves she was pretty much the co-writer of the book, Danielle Brown. And then after 21 years married, they ended up getting divorced. In 2020, Blythe filed a lawsuit alleging he had led a secret double life. You did talk about that, including an affair with their Dutch horse trainer, a young woman named Judith Peterson, who had moved into their New Hampshire home to train their horses. Blythe alleged he secretly diverted marital funds to buy Judith lavish gifts, including a $350,000 prize-winning Frisian stallion. And guess what that prize-winning horse's name was, Rach?
Bishop Aringarosa? I don't know.
You're on the right track. It was Da Vinci.
Make it stop.
Make it stop. Blythe also claimed she had been the lead researcher and creative partner behind all of his books and that he had hidden future projects worth millions from her. The lawsuit sought $150 million in damages, which is the exact same amount that Bacon and Leigh had sought when they sued him. Dan Brown attracts $150 million lawsuits the way normal people attract parking tickets. But they did settle in 2021 with no details made public. Brown said that the lawsuit was fictional and vindictive. Blythe said she was standing up for herself and setting the record straight. I'm hoping she got a mozza out of that.
A chunk of money.
Yeah, she obviously was the brains behind the whole outfit if he's getting it off with a horse trainer called Judith.
Yeah. You said it wasn't as gross as the phone sex, but I beg to differ. My final short fact is, did you know that you can sign up at masterclass.com to take an online course from Dan Brown on how to write a bestseller? Jess, I've signed you up, so I can't wait to read your book soon. We'll do it on the pod. Looking forward to it. What did you think of the ending of the book?
As mentioned at the start, I had completely forgotten who the teacher was. So when that turned out to be Sir Teabing, I was shook all over again. That was fun to be. He shooketh refilled all those years later. And I liked how the ending was all very nicely tied in a bow. Even the very corny part at the end where Langdon is on his knees before the inverted pyramid in the Louvre. I like books that tie it all up neatly, as you know. What about you, Rach? What do you think?
Honestly, it's like, you know, when you eat McDonald's and you forget that you've had a meal and your brain's, oh, you had McDonald's, but your stomach's, I don't feel like I've eaten. I can barely remember the ending, and I only read it a couple of weeks ago. What is it? Sophie is Mary Magdalene and Jesus' descendant.
Yeah.
And Mary Magdalene's tomb is hidden in the Louvre. Is that how it ends? And I don't really understand what her tomb has to do with anything and why you have to keep it hidden, because it doesn't.
That was the one big plot thing for me. If they had these explosive documents, why have they kept it secret for so long? It doesn't actually make any sense. If they were really so passionate about it.
Does it make any difference either? How are you going to prove that was Mary Magdalene and that she was married to Jesus and that's her descendant? And what does it matter anyway? I don't know. Who cares? So, yeah, the ending, fine. The whole book, fine.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Book Trivia Podcast. I hope you're all leaving with a slightly stronger appreciation for hidden codes, secret societies, and the very important lesson that if you're going to steal someone's research to write a global bestseller, maybe don't name your villain after them. And if you happen to pick up a US copy of the Da Vinci Code at your local second-hand bookshop this week, check the back cover. Look for the red-on-red coordinates. Find the upside-down message. Look for the Freemason distress call on the book flaps. And know that you are now officially one of the people who reads between the lines. Rach, do you want to give a teaser for the book we're covering next?
Yes. Next time we're going to America to 1979 or 1980, and we're going to learn a recipe for dealing with heartbreak. What's your teaser?
Well, instead of giving a teaser, I thought it would be fun to end our episode on the Da Vinci Code with a puzzle for our listeners. Are you ready? The clue is N-rub tra-e-r. And I'll spell it out for you. N-R-U-B-T-R-A-E-A-H. If you can crack that code, drop your answer in the comments on our Substack or Reddit, and you'll be the first to know what we're covering next month.
Wow, that's cool. Thank you so much for listening. And if you liked this episode, please like and subscribe. And only if you liked it, rate and review our podcast on whichever podcasting app you use. Or better still, share it with a friend and tell them to listen. For more book trivia, find us at booktriviapodcast.com. And you can also find us on Reddit, YouTube, and Substack, where we are Book Trivia Podcast. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.